So let's say someone's in the gym, they're lifting some weights, and they notice that the muscles are starting to fatigue. The mental chatter is beginning. Oh, you've done enough. You can put the weights down. You don't need to do another rep, but you know that you want to do another rep because hypothetically you're there to train to get better. What do we do about that mental chatter? Like, what's going on at that intersection between physical exertion and the brain, perhaps your mind, the emergent property of the brain, I think, is trying to keep you safe and not put yourself into a dangerous situation?
So the first thing I would say is that the voices in your mind, not to sound like crazy people, but the internal monologue, it matters. And one of the ways it matters is going back to this idea of your subjective perception of effort. So when I said your perception of how hard something is, it depends on the core temperature, and it depends on mental fatigue. It also depends on what you're telling yourself. If you're telling yourself, I don't think I can do this, like if you're halfway through a marathon and saying, yeah, there's no way I can maintain this pace, then your brain is listening to that voice, and it's factoring it in to say, okay, yeah, this is more like a 7 out of 10 effort than a 6 out of 10 effort. So if you're asking yourself, can I maintain this pace? You're more likely to say no if you're telling yourself that. And so this is like 1970s sports psychology, but put in the framework of how we now understand what the master switch of the brain is, or of effort is, which is subjective effort. So if you're able to change your internal monologue, so rather than saying, this is so hard, I hate this, I don't even know why I signed up for this stupid race, or why I came to the gym today. If you change it to like, it's hard, but I know this is what I've trained for. Like, I chose to be here.
Right.
This is what I want. I will be so proud of myself if I finish this set. It's going to be worthwhile. That's literally going to change your perception of effort, how you would rate this, how hard am I working on a scale of 10. It's going to alter that, and it's going to allow you to perform better. Now, it's not, in the heat of the moment, it's very hard to just say, I'm going to be happy now. Right. I'm so happy I ran this marathon.
Go, Alex, go.
So it's something that you have to work on over time. You have to, and I think stage 0 is become aware of what's going on in your head.
Okay.
So if you're in the gym, start listening, like, what are you telling yourself 3/4 of the way through the set? Or if you're running, like, what are the thoughts going through your head? And people have done lots of studies, in different activities. What are the thoughts? And it's amazing how negative the dominant self-talk is. I mean, maybe it's not amazing, because exercising hard is challenging. So it's not surprising that we tend to say things like, this sucks. Why am I doing this? Or what are we going to have for dinner? People have all these different kinds of thoughts. They're generally not helpful. So then you start to identify the ones that are least helpful and say, what can I replace it with? And again, not, to your point, it's not just like, Alex, you're the best, you're going to break the world record today. Because it's not true, and you're not stupid. You're not going to believe that if you're trying to tell yourself that. So you're trying to think of things that fit with your personality, that for me, it's not going to help if I just tell myself, I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, I'm the best. I need to think of something that feels real, which is like, I've trained for this. This is what it's supposed to feel like. Everybody around me is feeling the same thing. So that's no reason to slow down.
So we could almost you could anticipate what's going to happen. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel some fatigue. Be aware of the internal monologue around, which is probably designed to protect you, maybe, I think. Mm-hmm. And then have some ideas or words or sentences, power words, to help you through those moments that are real, that are actually true. So you could say, like, I do want to do these workouts. I've planned to do these workouts. I know that this is going to make me feel better. I will have more energy. Is that?
Yeah. So when people talk about mantras, I mean, it's not that necessarily that the mantra has magic powers, but it's like, it's better to be saying your mantra than it is to be saying, you should quit now, you miserable piece of slime. Yeah, exactly. So the mantra, it can be a displacer, but to your point about anticipating how you're going to feel, I think that's really important. And so as a runner, there's this sort of feeling like, you get fitter throughout any given season. And maybe it's because you race faster. Maybe it's because you're getting fitter, but it's also because the first race of any season, you forget how terrible it feels. And you get through and you're like, I'm gonna die. This is the worst thing.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, this is what it felt like last time. I know it's gonna be okay. And so to be able to take that imaginative step of, I know how this is going to feel. And this is not specific to sports. This is like, I have a big presentation. I know how I'm going to feel before that presentation. I'm going to feel nervous. I'm going to feel insecure. I'm going to feel unprepared. And so what am I going to tell myself when the voice says, you're unworthy to be giving this presentation, or you're not ready? Like, you have your ammunition ready to answer that. And so the same thing goes for exercise. Like, how am I going to feel 8 reps into a 10 rep set?
Yeah.
Be ready to tell yourself that that's okay. This is what you're supposed to feel. And doesn't mean you can automatically do the last 2 reps, but you might as well give it a try.
I love the fact we're beginning to, like, we're just teetering on the edge of the limit of what's possible for humans. That is a really challenging state for us to be in. You've written about craving, the craving of challenge. Like, we want that challenge. We need that challenge. What's that all about?
Yeah. So look, this is a midlife crisis question in some ways. It's like, what do I need to keep
That's
suffering?
why I'm asking.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
actually a Great Balls therapy session.
Yeah. This is. It's funny how I started thinking about these questions in my 40s. It's like, what? Couldn't I just lie on the couch for the rest of my life?
Why do I actually feel like I need to go beat the crap out of myself?
Yeah. So there's some work by a psychologist at the University of Toronto named Michael Inslicht, and many colleagues, but he's kind of led this work on something called the effort paradox, which is the idea that there are things we value not in spite of the fact that they're hard, but because they're hard. So it's like, if you're a mountaineer, you climb to the top of a mountain, there's a beautiful view, right? So you could say, I'm willing to put up with this suffering because I can get to the top and I'm going to see this beautiful view. So then you put a gondola that takes them to the top, and they'll be like, no, I don't want to just take the gondola to the top and see the view. I wanted to climb there. I wanted to get the whole premise of mountaineering is looking for the hardest route you can handle,
right,
to get up there. And that's what they value. They value what's hard about it, not just getting to the end. And I think that's a sort of, that you think, well, those mountaineers are crazy. Then you start to examine your life and you realize, no, if you ask people what are the meaningful things in their lives, they can't tell you what the meaning of life is, but they can see the things that felt meaningful to me are. And then they're going to list a bunch of things, most of which require effort.
Interesting.
Like whether it's bringing up kids or, completing a marathon. Surprisingly, ordering furniture from IKEA.
Yeah,
there's research on the IKEA effect. It's like,
really?
Yeah. They find that you get people to assemble a coffee table, and then, or you give it to them, the exact same coffee table, and then you ask them to sell it on a secondhand market. They'll ask for a higher price if they've put it together themselves. They value it more because they've had to struggle with it. The struggle is real with IKEA, right?
Yeah, it is.
But this is the general thing. And so, not to wander too far down the rabbit hole here, but why is it that we value these things? This is a hard question, and there's a lot of you can find this effect in animals too. You train them on 2 different kinds of food, one of which they have to fly a long way to, and one a short way to. And then if you give them equal choice, they're the same distance away, they seem to like the one they used to have to fly farther to get. They're like, this is the one that was more rewarding to me.
Yeah.
But so it's obviously there's a lot of things going on, but the explanation that I find most compelling is that people find hard things meaningful. And there's Michael Inslicht, this psychologist I mentioned, he's done work showing that the extent to which you're able to find meaning in taking on challenging things is correlated with things like how happy you are, and how successful you are at work, how much you make, and how much meaning you believe you have in your life. So it's like, so I'm gonna find my life meaningful, be happier, and make more money. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll keep doing hard things.
Is there a sweet spot in the effort continuum between doing, literally sitting on the couch and doing nothing, but it's too hard. You actually can't do it, and it's destructive.
Yeah, for sure. Because we can all imagine situations that are like, okay, this isn't challenging. This is just suicide, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a guy back in the 1800s, a psychologist named Wilhelm Wundt, who was a German psychologist. He was one of the fathers of modern psychology, and he proposed this sort of general relationship between how much we enjoy something and how kind of intense or complex or difficult the stimulus is. And it's basically looks like kind of like a bell curve. If something's really easy or obvious or predictable, boring. If something is totally incomprehensible, totally impossible, we find that unpleasant.
Right.
But in the middle, there's a sweet spot where basically we have a challenge that engages us, that keeps our full attention, that enables us to learn about the world. And there's sort of new brain science that suggests that our brains are wired to minimize uncertainty. And by doing that, you have to learn about the world. And so this sort of sweet spot, you can do studies with 8-month-old babies where you show them sequences of shapes. And if it's like the same shape over and over again, boring, they look away. You can track their attention by tracking their gaze. If it's random sequence of shapes, they look away, it's boring. But if there's a pattern, if there's some sort of pattern to discern, that'll keep their attention. So even at 8 months, we're wired to seek that sort of intermediate level of like, this is challenging, there's something here, it's not totally incomprehensible, but it's not totally predictable. So, and I think that generalizes to the challenges we ideally choose in work and life.